Hello, everyone, and welcome to Sharin Stories. I'm your host, Peaks, with my two beautiful co hosts, Sarah States and the real St. Paul. This is not a therapy session. You will not find mental health professionals here, nor are we a substitute for said people. We are just people sharing our stories with mental health. On today's episode, we have an unbelievable singer songwriter whose album Mama Said, released in 2020, was nothing short of a masterpiece. A radiant human being who brings joy to every interaction. She'll never ask you for a thing, but will always give you the world. Seriously, Sarah can attest to this, but I'm so lucky to know this person. I cannot wait to dive into the enlightening story she has planned for us. So it's time for me to shut up and introduce the wonderful, the beautiful, the magnificent Marissa Barbalato.
Woo!
Bro, thank you. Hi.
Hello.
Of course, hello, hello, hello. So Marissa, tell us a little bit about yourself before we go into that story of yours.
So, my name is Marissa Barbalato. I am from Buffalo, New York, and that is how I know Peaks and Sarah. And I grew up there my entire life. I then moved to New York City for school, and now I'm in Los Angeles, California, and I am pursuing my career as a singer-songwriter here, while also working a day job. I grew up pretty much just singing my whole life, and I was involved in soccer as well, and I love being social. I love people. I love my family. I love my friends. I love being adventurous. I love traveling. I'm Italian, so like that's a big part of me. Um, let's see.
Dude.
So, as far as my journey goes, when I was very young, I was 8 years old, my father passed away of a heart attack. And that really, really shaped me into becoming who I am today and really gave me a different perception on life and a different outlook on life, kind of guided me, um, through the normal day to day struggles. And then most recently, about 6 months ago, my brother passed away from a brain bleed quite suddenly. So I obviously have experience with grief and loss, as many of us do. But it is such a huge part of my life. So I am, interested to talk to you guys about how it has shaped me and how it shapes others. I think for me, I have a lot less, I guess you could say, anxiety, or not as many things bug me or have bugged me in my life, just because, especially since my father passed away, I had the mentality of, well, I'm alive and we're alive, so it is what it is. um, so yeah, that's kind of how I've guided myself, I guess. I'm a very intuitive person. I'm a very spiritual person, so that has helped me tremendously through my experience with loss. And like I said before, I love my friends, I love my family, and they've been such an amazing support system for me. Um, yeah, so that's a little bit about me. What else has happened? Yeah, that's a very general synopsis of my life.
That's a very wonderful synopsis. Thank you so much. So now we definitely have to dive farther into these different parts of your life, and I want to know kind of overall, what do you think the main differences and similarities you had to how you handled grief the first time versus the second time? What are the biggest things you learned, and what are the things you kind of wish you knew or taught yourself before?
The biggest difference is I was so young when my father passed away that I didn't really understand what was happening. I just saw 50 people at my house every day bringing food and smothering you. So I really didn't understand the magnitude of it. I had zero emotional intelligence. I didn't think ahead. I didn't understand how it would affect me in my future. I didn't understand how it would affect my family, how it would affect my mother, my brother. I didn't know that there would be a difference between growing up with a father and not having a father until I was much older. I'd say until high school, I really didn't resonate with it. It just didn't. I just couldn't comprehend it. Um, And then when my brother passed away, I would say I turned a lot more to people and my spirituality, because it was just so overwhelming. And I learned a lot more about myself through this grieving process. Something I wish I would have known, I guess, when my father passed away is, that's a good question. I would say, I think overall just talking about it, probably, because I don't know if I said this before, but I like couldn't say the word dad for a really long time. It just would not come out of my mouth, and when it did, it was like a frog was in my throat. So I think just talking about it. Obviously I talked to my family about it when I was younger and all of that, but I don't know. I think talking about it more, and how it would affect me and how it would affect everyone around me instead of just realizing it myself, that probably would have been beneficial. Yeah, so I think the main difference is just that I'm older and I have the emotional intelligence and capacity to understand how my brother passing affects everyone around him. That's the biggest difference, I would say.
Yeah, and you've always been like, well, so I didn't know you when your father passed away. We've known each other for a long time, but that was like previous to the beginning of our relationship. But like since I've known you, I feel like you're probably the most like, I don't know, like new agey or like into like that sort of thing friend that I have. Like, so your spirituality, when you say that, I know you're like grew up as a Christian, but like when I think of you and spirituality, I think of more like what we've talked about in the past, which is more like being tuned in and meditation and like all these other sorts of ways to be spiritual. And I feel like you've really grown in that like arena. Like from where we used to like read The Secret, which I think I mentioned in another podcast we did, like with Kevin, I think, how like wellness Kev, how like when we were younger, we read that book, The Secret,
Like,
and
there was like,
it was life. Like you lived and breathed The Secret. Like you couldn't even say the word like don't or no, or like you had to say everything in an affirmative. Oh my God. And like it was like a way of thinking for us. And like ever since that point, like I think we've moved away from like that maybe like to that extreme, but like you've become so spiritual in like other ways. And do you think that's because of the tragedies you've dealt with? Or did that just like kind of run alongside of it, and now it's something that has helped you cope with these things? Like,
mm,
I don't know if it strengthens it or if it's something that like is brought about because of what you've been through.
yeah, I think it's definitely okay. So to preface this, The Secret was life. It's, if for those of you who don't know, it's basically just a simple mindset. How do I
It's
say?
like it's the law of attraction, essentially.
Yeah. And I remember we discovered that I think in 10th grade. And I actually still share the book for people who aren't really into that sort of thing, but I just want to share with them. But anyways, yeah, it's the law of attraction essentially. And I was so interested in that because who doesn't want to have the dream life? So anyways, especially when you're in high school, you know, you're just fantasizing. So anyway, from your question, yeah, I think the grief and loss I've dealt with has absolutely propelled my spirituality. I think that's the reason why I am like that. Because I also have a different outlook on where people go when they pass. So for me, I've just had so many signs and affirmations of communicating and connecting with that side of life, that it's really enhanced my spirituality, because to me it's like, how can I not believe that? So yeah, it's definitely because of what I've been through though, and I think it naturally happened like that. I didn't say, oh, I've been through this, so now I should be more spiritual. I think it was just affirmative with what I've experienced and like the signs and all of that. Um, yeah, it's definitely grown. I'm really into meditation. I love being connected. I also just live off of my intuition. I don't know if I know some people disagree with that, but that's just how I've lived my life. And I live a pretty unconventional life as an artist, anyways. But I think listening to my intuition has guided me in the exact right place where I'm supposed to be. Um, so I think just like trusting myself and trusting the decisions, and I feel like my intuition never steers me wrong. It's constantly proving me right. So that just strengthens my spirituality as well. Yeah, but I definitely think just what I've been through has helped me with that for sure.
I mean, I like that living by the intuition. I think it's kind of, I mean, like you said, maybe a lot of people don't agree with it, but it is kind of refreshing to see in the way people kind of live their lives today, where it's not that common. But I do want to jump back to this connection that you've kind of created through the spiritual side. And I just want to, I mean, you did preface this and kind of mention a little bit, but how important it overall is it to find a connection to the people you've lost while you're still here? And what are some ways you felt these connections? What are ways maybe people who are not as in touch with their spiritual side can feel these connections or think about these connections?
There's so many. So, how do I start? Well, I personally would always talk to, I believe I have spirit guides, and I wasn't really sure who they were at first. I think before my brother died, I had an idea that it was my ancestors and my grandmother and my dad. And I had some affirmations when I would meditate and things like that. But I think it was when I'm just, I guess, be transparent. When my brother was literally like on his deathbed, I was holding his hand, speaking to him, and he would do things that I was like, there's no way he did not just hear me. There's just no way. Like, squeeze my hand and you squeeze my hand. Like, you're not supposed to be doing that. You know what I mean? So there were things like that that happened that some people may think are coincidence, but when it's like scientific and he literally shouldn't be moving, yet I'm asking him to do something and he does it, that to me was unbelievable. And then bouncing off of that, after he did pass, there have been so many signs that I've experienced. Just even, I don't know, I'll wake up and just like talk to my brother or ask for help or ask for a sign, and I'll see something like Superman is a really big sign for him, and I'll see a Superman logo that day. Or like red cardinals are a really big sign for my family, and we see red cardinals when we need them, or just things like that. But was that your question? I'm so sorry.
I remember when we went on a walk over the summer at the gorge, and remember, like, it was right after your brother passed, and we saw like one of the birds that you said was like a theme in your life. Remember, it like flew by.
The bluebird, yeah, because
Yeah.
colors. So bluebirds were also, I think, bluebirds and cardinals. Yeah, it flew right by and it was so pretty. Yeah, that was really, because I never see that, and that's also, I haven't seen a bluebird since. But yeah, like cardinals come up when I was driving on the highway and driving like an hour away, and I was literally just talking to my dad and brother because I do that in my car, and I was having like a really bad morning, and then all of a sudden this semi comes next to me with a huge cardinal on it. It's just things like that. And I don't know, I've never seen a semi with, I don't know, any sort of animal, I guess. I don't know, just things like that. And some people again can think they're a coincidence, but there's been a lot of stronger ones. I don't want to like sound crazy, but yeah, I feel like I can literally hear them sometimes. Like it's just a feeling, more like a feeling. Yeah. What was
I
that?
feel like when people say, like, if they're non-believers and that sort of thing, I'm like, but why wouldn't you just want to take it as a sign anyway? Like, why wouldn't you want to just like have that sort of like affirmation? Like, why not just admit that it's like sort of weird and it must be something like some sort of energy related thing? Like, I just like, it's something to believe in and really like
Exactly.
keep a connection.
Exactly. And I just think, I don't know. Yeah, people might not think that there's something bigger than us, but like to me, thinking that this 3D world is the only thing that we experience is not I just don't resonate with that. I think it's so much bigger. So yeah, I mean, of course, I think why not just take it as something positive, you know? Like we all could use a little hope anyway. So
Yeah, you did answer my question, by the way, Marissa. I know
okay.
you were nervous about it.
I just go on tangents and then
So I kind of want to hear a little bit more about the meditation because I know it's a big part. I just kind of want to know your process, where you started. So like when you first started meditating, how long, what were you doing in your mind, and to where you are now, and then kind of how it's all grown for you.
So I started just with yoga. I've always been into fitness and just moving my body and things like that. And then I got into breathing, and then meditating started. I don't even know. I did like I think some in high school, but I really got into it the last like year. I would say maybe like 2 years. I've just been on and off with it, but the last few years have been more intense, and then specifically since quarantine it's gotten really strong. And when I started, I just would picture me in a white room, or trying to quiet my thoughts, or just focus on one thing like my breathing, or just focus on positivity, just in general focusing on one thought. And then it just developed into starting from 2 minutes to 5 minutes to 10 minutes. And now sometimes I get really lost in it, and then I look at the clock and it's been 25 minutes. Or some days I can't do it. Some days I'll sit there for 30 seconds and I'm just so anxious that I can't do it. But I just like to listen to my body. And I think not forcing it is important, but also understanding that, I think I said this last time, but it's like, if you can't sit with yourself for a minute, like who else is going to want to sit with you for a minute? So I think just owning your space, and giving yourself like the time to it's supposed to be relaxing, you know, it's good for you. It should be a positive experience. So yeah, it's gone really strong. I more recently kind of picture like a gold light around me as a protection, just to protect me emotionally, physically, spiritually, and just in the sense of giving light. Like I just want to focus on like giving light, and only receiving positive, and receiving what's meant for me, and letting go of what's not meant for me, you know. And yeah, sometimes I'll see colors or people or other things when I'm really into it. And I really like to listen to binaural beats. Binaural beats, it's a music that is tuned to a certain frequency that resonates with certain chakras. So for instance, I think it's like 420 hertz to 460 hertz resonates with your heart chakra. So it's for heart healing, which I don't know if you guys know SZA, the artist SZA, but she has an album called Control. And that whole album is 420 and 460 hertz. And I'm obsessed with it. I know.
Okay, well, first of all, Marissa, this is like my favorite album in existence. I honestly say that.
Yeah, it's incredible. It's incredible. Yeah, I've had it on repeat forever, and I still put it on. It does something to you.
It's like everyone. I didn't know that was the case at all, and I didn't know that was like a thing. But it truly is like the album for the past 5 years or like 6 years on Spotify. She always makes it into my top 5 artists, and there's always one song that makes it into my top songs from that album, just nonstop. Well, I mean, we're not gonna sit here and talk this all day now, like I could.
Album, you'll hear that it stays within one little pocket, and that feeling just like resonates throughout the whole album. It's amazing. But anyway, that's an example of something more mainstream, because binaural beats are it's just instrumental, and it's more of a vibration, binaural beats, rather than the actual, I guess, musicianship. But yeah, so that's a little bit of my meditation and just feeling grounded.
So as like a singer-songwriter in LA, like how do you use your talent to help you emotionally stronger and mentally stronger? Because I've seen like some of your stuff, and it's like so amazing. You're really talented, and it's just like every time I listen to your stuff, it makes me so calm, and it's just like, you know, and I'm just like, wow, like how do you use your talent to be emotionally stronger?
My talent to be emotionally stronger. I think for me, growing up listening to artists like Sarah Bareilles and Ingrid Michaelson, and just singer-songwriters. They really helped me just feel better about life in general. You put them on and you feel calm. So I think for me, what helps make me emotionally stronger through my music is being really honest when I'm writing. And it's something, because I'm currently recording an album, which will take a while, but it's something I'm really trying to put into this, is just being extremely honest. And that really helps me strengthen my emotions, because I know that other people are going through similar things in life, or something that'll resonate. So knowing that I can help someone, I think, is really empowering, and that helps me emotionally too, knowing that you're not alone, because that's what the artist did for me growing up, as it made me feel like I wasn't alone. So that helps me, and it's one of those things where it like can get you through another day. You're like, if I can help someone with this line or this song, I would love that. So, and maybe it won't, but I think just it's like a therapy session for me, just letting my feelings out through music and through song. And singing is, for me, it's like singing, writing, playing, and singing, just thinking of different melodies that feel right. And just being really free with it and not really having a lot of rules helps me. It's like an uncontrolled part of my life, and I really like that.
I think something that we talked about in the past regarding grief and sort of like the trauma that accompanies grief, because even if like the trauma didn't really happen to you directly, like as someone who experiences grief, I think you're going through a sort of very like traumatic experience that you can carry with you for a really long time. So I think we talked about this before, but like, did you have the experience where like maybe, I'm not sure if it would be after your father passed because that you were really young, but maybe more so now, like when people in my life have passed away, like I become this person that's like, I try to stay positive, but by the same token, like I become a worrier, where like you're always like, okay, this is going to happen to me again. Like someday this is going to happen again.
Mm-hmm.
And like becoming obsessed with that thought of like something bad happening again sort of can become like obsessive, where you're like preparing yourself for the worst at all times. And I think like instead of then being very like open with your grief and your trauma, you can close off, because you're like, it's like a fake strength, because you're like, well, if I just guard myself, I know this is going to happen again. So if I put on this like fake strength, like I'll be able to get through this again. Whereas I feel like that can be really detrimental and like bad for the grieving process. I'm not sure if that's something you've experienced. I think like some people that experience grief and trauma, like that's one way of experiencing it. Maybe not like the healthiest way, but it's just like a way to get through things. I don't know, like if we talked about that being any part of your experience or not, or what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so I think like when my father passed away, I again like didn't have the emotional intelligence to understand that could happen again, and I also didn't think that would happen again. You never think that would happen again. But I do remember at one point, I think it was maybe like 9th grade or 8th grade or something like that. For some reason, cancer came up in my family, and I remember getting intense anxiety, thinking, "Oh my gosh, this actually could happen again." For whatever reason, it was extremely realistic. And I specifically thought of my brother, actually. I don't know. We were at the table. I'll never forget that. And I thought, oh my God, that's frightening. That could really happen again. It kind of came and went. It was nothing that I really thought I really feared, I guess. It wasn't until my brother was having complications where I was like, oh my God, this could actually happen. And then I was getting really nervous. But again, I almost felt like I don't know. I almost felt like I had this protection around me because I lost my father. Like God wouldn't do that, or whoever you believe in the universe isn't going to do that. Like they're not going. It's just not going to happen. It's unrealistic. And now that my brother did pass, and I really look at the big picture, especially now having been 6 months. At first, I was in shock. Like I didn't even know. It almost felt like my mind was processing it, but my body and my emotions were not. And now 6 months later, my emotions are processing it and my body's processing it, and it's like catching up to itself. So I feel the roller coaster 1,000 times more. And I also definitely, I don't really have any of that fear, I guess, because I also, I think we did talk about this, but I don't really like fear death anymore. I think, I guess, pre my brother, I feared death, but at the same time, I thought this bigger power wouldn't do that to my family. They're not going to take half of my immediate family, you know? And pardon. And then when it did happen, again, I was in shock. I didn't know how to feel. And then now at this point, I'm just not afraid of death. And it goes back to kind of having that like spiritual connection or that like communication. I feel like I feel like what we experience on earth is hell. Just flung my thing. Is hell in quotes. I say that in quotes because it's not, you know, I don't want to act like this is some horrible place. It's not. But this is actually like to me, this is the worst or the hardest, most difficult learning experience we will have as souls. Like, to me, we are souls in a human body. Pardon. And let me get my train of thought. Souls in a human body. So that being said, I don't have that fear because I'm not afraid of death. I obviously have that. I don't want anyone else to pass away. Obviously, I don't want anything bad to happen. It's especially right now. It's like I emotionally just can't handle that as in the grieving process. But I do have an acceptance towards it, I guess, because of everything that's happened. It's like, at this point, I'm going to be there too. And so will everybody else. And I also believe that I'll be reunited with everyone on the other side. I'm very confident in that. So it actually is, it's almost exciting to not, it's like an exciting adventure that we're on in life, you know? So I don't believe that it ends when our bodies end here. So it's just something that I don't fear. Maybe tomorrow I'll feel differently. And I've gone through days where it's really scary, and I've gone through days where it's extremely difficult. And, you know, like I'll literally just be working and turn my head a certain way and start sobbing. You know, like it's a roller coaster. It is a roller coaster, as you guys understand grief is. And like specifically right now, talking to you guys, I feel really grounded today. But yesterday was a mess. And so it's truly day by day. It's like hour by hour, actually. I should say minute by minute. It's minute by minute. But yeah, it's a roller coaster. I agree, though. I think putting on like a tough face and acting like everything's okay all the time is definitely detrimental. And when it first happened with my brother, everyone was like, "Are you okay? Because you're not showing any emotion." But I'm also someone who grieves, how do I say, not privately, because I talk to my family a lot about it, or I'll talk to like some of my friends about it, but I'm not going to go to some sort of, I don't know, let's say like hang out with our friends and then just like cry the whole time. I'd rather just not go. You know what I mean? Like I don't want that energy on me. If I'm dealing with something, I'd rather be alone, thinking about it, digesting it, understanding it emotionally, understanding it logically. Like that's how I grieve. Yeah, so it's truly all over the place. It is extremely important to feel feelings that you need to feel in order to get through. And I think analyzing them is really important. I think sometimes people don't analyze them because it's so new. And especially we're always here like trying to dissect ourselves as humans. And then you throw in all of these other outside entities. Like, how are you supposed to understand? But I think understanding yourself and understanding your emotions is really important. So that's something I'm constantly trying to work on. And I think that helps me personally. And I suggest just getting to know yourself and loving yourself, because it'll just give you that like stronger foundation to handle what's thrown at you. That's how I feel. Did that answer your question? Did I go on a tangent again?
No, you're doing fantastic. Question after question, you're hitting them. So I do want to talk about what you said there, because you kind of said you're hour by hour bad days. So for anyone, I think you can just wake up and a bad day hits you.
Yeah.
For someone going through grief, those days can be tenfold, right? Do you notice a difference in the way you handle your bad days, those bad mornings or those bad hours that we're talking about, now versus maybe a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks after kind of these traumatic events happened.
Yeah. So you're saying I handled them 2 weeks after to what it's been 6 or 7 months.
Yeah.
So I think when my passed away, I was home for 2 months, and that was really in a good and bad way. It was really, really distracting because I was living at home. My mom was there. Someone was always in the house. Like everywhere I went, I was with someone. I was never really alone. And then I moved back to California, and my mom actually came with me, and it was nice to like get her out here, and it was a nice distraction. So yeah, I'd have really bad mornings and bad days, but I also had a lot of people and energy around me to lift my spirits. And I also had everyone around me that was also grieving. So it just felt comfortable. So the bad days were bad, but they weren't as bad as I would say they were maybe like 2 months ago. Cause now I feel like I'm going on an uphill trajectory with this. But yeah, a couple months ago was really bad. Like especially being in isolation, I got a new job. I work from home. I live alone. Like it's extremely isolating. And then you're throwing grief in there. And then I'm throwing in just trying to, not only are you just trying to survive, but I'm also someone who like, when I wake up, I think, how can I make today the most productive? How can I improve myself today? So then I don't know. So I think I was just putting too much pressure on myself, and the bad days were really bad. Like there were some days where I would just go on a walk and I'm like, should I just move home? Like, I don't know if I should be here. Yeah, it was really bad. And yeah, it wasn't until I think recently, just, I think dissecting the whole grief aspect of my life, and I know it's really cliche to say time heals all, but I don't think it's just time. I think it's growth within the time that you have to work on. And I just think I've grown a lot in the last 2 months, and that's helped a lot. But yeah, now it's getting better. But I would say like weeks after compared to a few months ago was like night and day. And now it's getting better, if that makes sense. And yeah, I just think that has to do with the people around me too. I have, friends here that are really lovely, and that helps. And just kind of making every day different, I think helps as well. Not only with like isolation, but with grief. Because being redundant and, doing the same thing every day isn't always a good thing. So yeah, I just try to do that and, keep it spicy, as they say.
All the grieving stuff that people say, that I was always like, that sounds so corny or cliche or like whatever. Even like time heals all. I was like, after experiencing it, I was like, holy shit. Like all of that sounds so simple, but it like, there's such truth in it. Like, I can't think of like any of the cliches right now, but like, it's just so true. Like people were giving me like grieving books, and I would read them and be like, this is like, I could have written this book, because it's like so, it's just what people say over and over again. It's like a very obvious, but you're like reading it and you're like, yes, like that is true. It's like all just like everything that people say when they're like, when you're in the process of like fresh grieving, like months later, you're gonna be like, yeah, that was all, that all checked off. Like it really did.
It does. It's so true. It's so, so true. And I also think not only the cliches are true, but I think also kind of like having an out-of-body outlook on it, and just thinking in the sense of everybody goes through difficult times. You're not the only one. I think that's just comforting in general. I know some people will join groups or things like that. I'm not one to do that necessarily, but I do find comfort in knowing that we're all in this journey together, and we're not the only ones that experience it, and it's a part of life, and it's sucks, but I think acceptance of all of this is number one. I had a really big, I had this week of pondering the thought of acceptance, and that really helped with my grief journey. Just accepting. It doesn't mean you like it, but you have to accept it. Just like going through a breakup, it doesn't mean you like it, but you have to accept it. Anything, you're whatever it is, traffic, you're not going to like it, but you have to accept it. You can't change these things. So you have to accept it, because why would you put an energy towards it? What do you like, how you can't change it. So just accept it. And then from there, take that emotion, dissect it, understand it. How can you, work with that? I think acceptance is, it's really hard. It's really hard, but I think it's a really big part. It sounds like simple, but it's not. But I think it's a huge part of everything.
Yeah. Sorry to the guys that I just talked about this yesterday, but I'm reading this book called I don't remember what it's called. It's called like Frig, what is it called? I can't remember, but it's about like closing the stress cycle essentially. And it was talking about how I don't know if they accept it, but basically like what you just said about sitting in traffic and how you can be like, this sucks. Like I fucking hate traffic. Like I can't believe I'm wasting my time. It's taking like 20 minutes to get to the gas station or whatever. When you can just sit in the car and be like, okay, like this is just my journey to the gas station. Like I have to accept that there's no way to get around this. Like, yeah, it's not enjoyable, but that's life. Like this is just like what we have to do. And like I think that's so important to like having like a healthy heart, is just to be able to be like the first step, which is just like, even when things are unpleasant or like things aren't going your way, you have to just be like, yeah, I can accept this for what it is, even in its like not pleasant form. Like I have to be able to just like be able to sit with myself and be like, yeah, this is happening and I'm going to figure it out.
It's also something, it's also about perspective. Like, it's never that serious. Obviously, grief is extremely serious, but it also teaches you to put everything in perspective. For example, quick story. I parked in the wrong parking garage the other day. It was a whole thing. Basically, it was for a grocery store it's called Erewhon. It's really bougie here in Los Angeles. And I didn't go to Erewhon. I went to my friend's apartment to pick up something. We come down with these boxes of things, and the parking guy was like, this is only for Erewhon. He takes a picture of my license plate. It was this whole ordeal. And I rolled down my window and I said, excuse me, sir, why did you take a picture? And he's like, because now we have you on file, and if you come here again and you don't use Erewhon, whatever. It was a whole to-do. Long story short, what I'm saying is, in the past, I probably would have maybe, bit back a little, or given him attitude, or had anxiety over it, or felt bad, or I literally was like, okay, as long as I'm not getting a ticket, have a good day, bye. Whatever. Take a picture of me, I'll pose. I don't care. Whatever. It's not that serious. But I know other people who would handle a situation like that, as simple as it is, in a completely different way. Or like I said, 5 years ago, me, oh my gosh, I would have been, I'm going to get a ticket. I'm so sorry. I did that. I'll go to your one right now. I would have bought, groceries and faked it or whatever. Now I'm like, okay.
You would go all the way.
I literally would have. I would have 5 years ago. That would have been me.
I'm thinking about that time when you drove through the red light and your red light face that you sent us was like, I wish that people listening to this podcast would see this. You were like the camera literally caught you like, oh my God, I just went through that red light, and your face is just like,
there were 2 flashes. There was one, and then I noticed it happen. So and then I went, and then they took the second one, and it was in my ex-boyfriend's car in Beverly Hills. So it's an expensive place to get that. And it was not even my car. And then I responded to the red light ticket, which I shouldn't have done. That's a trick, everybody. If you are mailed a red light ticket, you do not need to respond, and you will not get, and nothing will happen, because there's no proof of you getting the ticket. It's not like a cop physically sent.
I don't want this to be, I don't know if this is true.
Is that true?
I don't know if this is true, and I don't think you should be spreading it. I don't think you should be spreading this information. I think you're defrauding a system. I think you're defrauding a system that will absolutely bite back.
Anyways.
Luckily, the FBI have bigger fish to fry right now.
That is true. Fish sounds good. Yeah, that's true. Very true.
Fish sounds good.
Fish sounds good.
Okay.
All right, so back on track a little bit. I don't want. I hope I'm not digging too much with this question. You can absolutely not answer this one. But I'm just curious, because you said in the car sometimes you like to talk to your brother and your dad. Just what are those conversations like?
What are I should record myself and re-listen. Honestly, they're probably wild. Sometimes I just talk to them about life. I'm like, okay, so why this? Why that? What should I do here? What should I do there? I'm feeling like this today. I am really grateful for this. I'm upset about this. It's like my own little venting session. I honestly, it's not digging too much at all. It definitely doesn't just go down one path. I kind of am all over the place. I talk to them like they're my best friends. Like I literally can tell them anything. I don't know if I'm dating someone or something, I don't know. But I also can get really serious. If I'm having a horrible day, I'll literally shout and be like, help me, So it really just depends on the day. And it's not like I think they're physically talking back or anything like that. But it's just nice to know because I, again, am very, I really believe that they hear me. So yeah, it's just comforting.
And you have dreams too. The dreams, like I know you're often talking about the dreams that they come to you in.
Yes, I have such vivid dreams. It's really creepy. I almost cry every time because it's so real. And then I'll wake up and I feel like for example, what was the most recent one with my brother? I've had a few where we're just dying laughing because that was my brother and we would just laugh. He was so funny. He would make me laugh so much. So I still don't think I'll ever laugh as hard with anyone. And so there are dreams where we're just cracking up and then I'll wake up and I feel like he's in the room. And then I have to say like, okay, Matt, I feel like you're here. Just maybe let me sleep or whatever, because it's so vivid. It's like, I can't even help it. I feel like he's right there. I've had ones where, what's another one? He was on his bed. We were in the house we grew up and he was on his bed and I came out of my room and I saw him and I thought it was shortly after he had passed away. And I was in my dream knew that he wasn't supposed to be there. So I was like, Matt, what are you doing? And he just looks at me and he was smiling. And I was like, this doesn't feel right. So I went downstairs. I told my mom and they were like, yeah, no, he's okay. And I was like, no, he's not. You guys don't understand this. He's not supposed to be here. He passed away. I saw it. And then I was trying to wake myself up. It was so crazy. And then I woke up and I was sobbing because it's just confusing to be anything to your psyche, your subconscious. Like you don't know where it really lies in your head. So it can get really confusing emotionally. And yeah, I usually just I just wake up and I cry because you're so close yet so far to the actual tangible thing. Yeah, but then I'm so lucky that I get to experience that because to me it's bigger than just a dream. So I'm really, really lucky to be able to, like communicate that way. But yeah, it's an interesting experience. I know you've had them too, but yeah, it's great. They're crazy.
So for people who are like going through grief right now, or like they recently lost somebody, what do you have advice for people who are going through grief right now? Since the stage of the world right now and everything, and and do you have any advice for people going through grief right now?
I think if you're going through grief and you have others that are grieving that person, to just confide in them and spend time with them and talk about it, talk about your memories, talk about how you're feeling that day, talk about, what you think. I think talking about after death too is really important, whether you believe it or not. That's fine. You can say I don't believe anything happens, which is fine. But I think just saying it out loud with somebody and just knowing that person is also feeling. I just think surrounding yourself with people that understand is really important. And then just look for, I know this is really generic and kind of cliche, but just like look for the light in your life, wherever that is. If that's looking at the sunset, like if that's, making your coffee in the morning, whatever that light is, that thing that brings you happiness or, just, some simplistic sense of peace. I think that's really important. And it doesn't have to be anything crazy. I just think enjoying the simple things and understanding that you're not alone and surrounding yourself with good people that understand.
truly a woman of infinite wisdom, Marissa. Someone that I could listen to constantly, and I will have more conversations with you, luckily, in the future, as I know you. But we do have to wrap up the recording portion of our conversations. So before we do so, Marissa, is there anything you would like to plug? Tell us about what you're doing right now, or just recently.
Well, everyone should listen to Sharin Stories all the time.
Not how plugs work, but we do
You
appreciate
just
it.
plugged us.
Guys, thank you for having me on this amazing podcast. I think what you guys are doing is incredible. Talking about mental health is extremely important. I personally, yes, I am a singer-songwriter. I have music out, all that fun stuff, and I have other things happening and coming out. So if you want to, I don't know, chat with me, I would love to chat. I love people and I love talking. So, you know, I don't know, shoot me a message on social media. Let's be friends. But yes, I do music, so that's what I do. And I hope it resonates with you. If it doesn't, that's fine too.
Like I said, amazing album just came out pretty recently called Mama Said. And I know a lot of it touches on what we've talked about today, just in more vocally pleasing styles. And we do appreciate you coming on, Marissa, and it's always a pleasure. So thank you all, and thank you all for listening or watching or doing whatever you do at home. We really appreciate it as well.